John Carter adjusted his formal uniform as he looked out the window of the diplomatic ship. The massive space station that housed the Galactic Council loomed ahead, a shining silver wheel against the darkness of space. Earth has waited 50 years for this moment. Formal recognition and a chance to join the interstellar community. Nervously, Susan Miller, her advisor and second-in-command, asked. Her eyes scanned the approaching station warily. A healthy amount, Carter admitted. We're the new kids at school, and from what I've heard, some of these species have been running things for thousands of years. The ship docked with a soft hiss. Carter took a deep breath. He represented not just the United Earth government, but all of humanity. This encounter would shake the future of humanity among the stars. The welcoming party consisted of tall, blue-skinned, four-armed aliens, the Nelvari, known for their role as council mediators. Their leader stepped forward. Ambassador Carter, welcome to Centralist Station. I'm the first speaker, Jalen. The council waits. Carter and Miller followed the Nelvari down gleaming hallways. Other alien species watched them pass by, some with obvious curiosity, others with what appeared to be disdain. Remember the briefing, Miller whispered. Skethary representatives will be sitting in front of us. They opposed human membership from the beginning. Carter nodded. The Skethary were among the oldest races of the council, reptilian beings known for their strict adherence to tradition. Intelligence reports suggested that they viewed humanity as a dangerous newcomer. The council chamber left Carter breathless. A vast circular room with 17 raised platforms arranged in a ring. Each platform contained representatives of a different alien civilization. Carter spotted the Skethary immediately. Tall, scaly beings with narrow faces and vertical pupils. Their leader, Elder Vasak, watched Carter with cold, unblinking eyes. The humans announced the chairman of the council, a slender being with translucent skin. You can get closer to the center. Carter walked to the speaking platform in the middle of the circle. He felt the weight of each strange look. Honored representatives of the Galactic Council, he began, his voice firm. I bring greetings from Earth. For centuries, we have looked at the stars and wondered if we were alone. Now we know the answer, and we came in search of friendship and mutual understanding. Some representatives nodded. Others remained motionless. Humanity offers its knowledge, resources, and partnership. We seek to learn from your wisdom and share what we have learned on our journey. Carter continued. We propose open trade agreements with all municipal races, with a special focus on cultural exchange programs to promote better understanding between our peoples. A low hiss came from the Skethary section. Elder Vasak rose to his full height. The human speaks of trade and exchange, as if he were an equal, said Vasak, his voice like dry leaves. However, they come without understanding our oldest traditions. He has just proposed violating the sacred limits of knowledge. Carter looked confused. Nothing in your briefing mentioned this concept. Miller stepped forward. Elder Vasak, if Ambassador Carter offended, it was not intentional. We would like to receive clarification on these limits. Ignorance is not an excuse. Vasak responded. By suggesting the unrestricted trade of knowledge among all species, he violated Taboo Principle 7. I invoke Council Protocol 7 to 9. The chamber erupted into whistles and murmurs. The president banged a crystal rod on the ground to give order. Protocols 7 to 9 have not been invoked for 3 centuries, they said. However, it is my right, Vasak insisted. Carter leaned toward Miller. What is happening? Before she could respond, security guards entered the chamber and surrounded Carter. John Carter of Earth announced the president, his voice now formal and cold. You stand accused of violating a sacred taboo. Under Protocol 7 to 9, the decision is immediate and cannot be appealed. This is absurd. Carter protested as the guards approached. I came here in peace. At least I explained the accusation. Miller tried to intervene, but was restrained. As Carter was led away, Vasak watched with what seemed almost satisfaction in his ancient eyes. Go back to your ship, Vasak told Miller. Tell Earth what happens when primitives speak out of turn. Carter looked at Miller. Contact Earth, he muttered silently before the doors closed behind him. Susan Miller ran through the halls of Centralist Station, her heart pounding in her chest. 2 Nelvari guards chased her, but she knew the station was better than they expected. The emergency diplomatic codes Carter had given him weighed heavily in his pocket. Behind her, somewhere in the center of the station, they were preparing the ritual. She had less than an hour. Miller entered a maintenance shaft, waiting until the guards passed before continuing toward the communications center. She needed to send a message to Earth. Meanwhile, John Carter was in a bare room, surrounded by Council security forces. They took his uniform jacket and communication devices. Elder Vasak entered, accompanied by 2 assistants carrying ornate boxes. "Your kind is young," Vasak said, his scaled face showing no emotion. "Too young to understand the order we have maintained for millennia." "So he explained it to me," Carter replied calmly. "Whatever taboo I broke, it wasn't intentional. Diplomacy requires communication." Vasak opened one of the boxes. Inside was a silvery liquid that glittered under the lights. "The universe requires order. Your species spreads very quickly, thinks very freely, speaks very boldly." Vasak dipped a claw-like finger into the liquid. "This is the ceremonial fire. It burns the body while preserving consciousness until the end." Carter felt cold fear spread through him, but he kept his voice steady. "The United Earth government will consider this an act of war. We eliminated 17 species that threatened the balance." Vasak said, "Your species will be the 18th. Security forces moved in to restrain Carter. At the communications center, Miller worked quickly. She bypassed security protocols using diplomatic codes and established a direct link with Earth Command. With shaking hands, she carried all the station data she could collect, including the hidden records of previous species that had been removed from the galactic community. "This is Diplomatic Officer Susan Miller," she said into the transmitter. "Emergency Protocol 9. Ambassador Carter was detained under false pretenses. The Scoteries are planning the execution. Request immediately." The door opened. Miller turned around and found a Brill technician, a small alien with gray skin and big eyes. "They are taking your ambassador to the trial chamber." Brill said calmly, "I can show you a way to testify without getting caught. Some of us disagree with the old ways." Miller hesitated, then nodded. "The message has been sent." There was nothing else Earth could do in time. On Earth, in the United Command Center, Admiral Frank Peterson watched the received transmission with increasing horror. Around the table sat the highest military and government officials on Earth. "Play it again," he ordered, his voice tight with anger. The viewing screen showed a circular chamber. In the center was John Carter, tied to a metal post. Around him, council representatives of all races watched from seats and staggered. Elder Vasak approached, carrying a torch that burned with silver flame. "For the crime of suggesting an unrestricted exchange of knowledge, in violation of sacred boundaries, this human is sentenced to ceremonial burning," Vasak announced. Carter looked directly at the hidden camera that Miller had activated. He knew Earth was watching. "I came in peace," Carter said aloud. "Remember this. I extended the hand of humanity and friendship, and this was their response." Vasak pointed the torch at the platform below Carter. Silver fire rushed upwards, engulfing him. Despite the obvious agony, Carter remained standing as long as possible. "Humanity will remember," he said, his last words transmitted light years before his neural implant fell silent. In the command center, Admiral Peterson banged his fist on the table. The room was deathly silent, except for the soft crying of an aide in the corner. "This wasn't justice," Peterson finally said. "This was a message they considered weak." President Alice Ward rose slowly, her face like stone. "Send the recall order to all our ships and diplomats. From this moment on, the Earth darkens." And then he asked the Secretary of Defense. The president looked at the frozen image of the council chamber. "Then we show them exactly what humanity does when provoked." Hiding in a maintenance tunnel with her ally Brill, Susan Miller watched the silver flames die. She held a data crystal containing everything she had witnessed. Somehow she would return to Earth. And when he did, the galaxy would learn a painful lesson about humanity's response to injustice. 3 weeks have passed since Ambassador Carter's execution. On the other side of the galaxy, the Galactic Council noticed something strange. Human ships disappeared from trade routes. The human colonies fell silent. Communication attempts received automated responses. "Earth is processing your message. Please wait." Counselors had different reactions. Some felt relief that the humans were retreating. Others worried about the meaning of silence. They accepted their place. Elder Vasak told the council. Like all young species, they demanded a demonstration of authority. A Nelvari representative disagreed. "I studied human history. They do not retreat when threatened. They prepare." Vasak dismissed these concerns with a wave of his clawed hand. Prepare how? Their technology is centuries behind ours. Its armed forces consist of a few hundred ships. We monitor all known human space. There is no unusual activity. Behind the darkness of Neptune, hidden from the Council's observation posts, reality told a different story. Here the largest fleet ever assembled in the history of humanity took shape. 5 groups of aircraft carriers, 30 squadrons of destroyers, and hundreds of smaller vessels arranged in perfect formation. In the center, the UES Vengeance, a dreadnought built in secret over the last decade, waited for its first mission. On its bridge was Fleet Commander Alan Ross. He watched the last group of ships arrive from the Martian shipyards. Status report, Ross ordered. All ships present and accounted for. Move, replied his second-in-command. The last stealth corvettes have just arrived from Titan. Ground forces are loaded and ready, just awaiting final authorization. Ross nodded. Earth had been preparing for this possibility since first contact revealed the existence of the Galactic Council. The Rapid Shipbuilding Program, officially called the Defense Initiative, was dismissed by Council observers as primitive recovery efforts. They never realized the true scale of humanity's preparations. Nate Ra. In the underground presidential bunker, Susan Miller delivered her full report to world leaders. She escaped the centralist station with the help of sympathetic aliens and returned to Earth with critical intelligence. Critics have been manipulating Council policy for centuries, Miller explained, pointing to the data displayed on the room's main screen. They have orchestrated the removal of at least 17 species that threaten their dominance. We were not chosen. We're just the latest target. President Alice Ward studied the information. And these other Council races, are they all complicit? Miller shook his head. Many are victims themselves, kept in line through fear and manipulation. The Nelvari, Brill, and Iridians suffered under strong influence. They can be potential allies. The Secretary spoke. The fleet is assembled and ready, Madam President. Operation Prometheus awaits your command. President Ward stood up and went to the window overlooking the reconstructed Washington skyline. The citizens below went about their daily lives, unaware of the important decision that was being made. The Council believes we are cowering in fear, she said calmly. That we accepted Carter's assassination as the price of our ambition. She turned to face the room. They are wrong. She pressed her palm against the authorization scanner. The screen flashed green. Operation Prometheus is approved. Commander Ross has full tactical authority. In space, Ross received the authorization code. He addressed the fleet through the command channel. This is Fleet Commander Ross speaking to all ships. We waited and watched for 3 weeks. The enemy believes that we lack the courage to respond. Today, we prove them wrong. Ross brought out the tactical display. Our target is the scary home world. Your defense network is our main objective. Captain Steve Bennett will leave the ground teams. Captain Bennett, aboard the stealth insertion ship Nemesis, reviewed the details of his mission. His team would infiltrate the planetary defense headquarters while the fleet created a diversion. Remember, Ross continued, it's not about destruction. It's a question of justice. No civilian targets. We want Elder Vosik captured alive to face human justice. Show the galaxy the difference between their barbarism and our civilization. The massive fleet began to move, utilizing jump technology that the Council races rejected as theoretical for humans. In moments, they would arrive on the frightening homeworld, and the galaxy would discover what happened when humanity sought revenge. The haunting homeworld of Valos Prime shone like a jewel against the darkness of space. Its 3 moons reflected light onto planet-scale cities. Today was the Purification Festival, when the Scatheri celebrated their ascension to the Galactic Council 5,000 years ago. Elder Vosik stood on his ceremonial platform in the Great Temple. Below him, thousands of stern citizens watched in reverence. Today we remember the wisdom of our ancestors, announced Vosik, who recognized that not all species deserve a place among the stars. Some bring chaos. Some bring disorder. Some, like humans, bring dangerous ideas that threaten the balance we maintain. The crowd hissed in approval. 3 weeks ago, we showed the humans their place. Vosik continued. Now they hide in their own system, afraid. An aggressive young military officer rushed onto the platform. Elder, our orbital sensors detect unusual energy readings at the edges of our system. Vosik frowned. Explain. Multiple jump signatures, hundreds of them. Nothing that matches the profiles of the Gnome Council ships. Before Vosek could respond, the sky above the temple darkened. The 3 moons of Valos Prime were submerged, tightly blocked by huge shapes. Human ships, hundreds of them, appeared in low orbit, their hulls reflecting sunlight onto the panicked crowd below. On the lead ship, Commander Ross watched the tactical display. All ships in position reported to their tactical officer. The Scathery defense grid is active but confused. Their ships are spread out for the festival. Ross nodded. Begin Phase 1. Captain Bennett, you have the green light. On the stealth ship Nemesis, Captain Steve Bennett and his team prepared for launch. Their armor was light, but stronger than anything this attack had. Their weapons were prepared to stun. Remember your training, Bennett told his soldiers. We are not here to start a war. We're here to end one before it starts. The launch pods launched silently, falling toward the defense headquarters while the main fleet distracted its sensors. In the command center, panic spread. Launch all fighters. Contact the Council for emergency assistance, ordered the base commander. A communications officer repeatedly tried to send the distress call. Sir, I can't reach any Council world. All channels are being blocked or congested. Outside, aggressive defense ships rose to engage the human fleet. They fired energy weapons that humans had never displayed in previous encounters. But something strange happened. The human ships did not return fire. Instead, they launched small drones that attached themselves to the attack ships, overriding their systems. What is happening? Demanded the commander sternly as his ship's engine shut down. Sir, humans are boarding our ships, reported an incredulous officer. They are taking our crew prisoner. Back at the temple, Voss tried to maintain order. Remain calm. Our defenses are the strongest in the galaxy. Humans cannot. The temple doors opened. Captain Bennett entered with his team, guns raised, but not firing. Elder Vosek called Bennett, his voice amplified by the suit. In the name of human justice, you are being detained to stand trial for the murder of Ambassador John Carter and crimes against multiple species. Vosek backed away. This is an outrage. You can't just invade a world of advice. I am protected by. The Council can't help you, Bennett interrupted. Right now, human ships control the space above 17 Council worlds. None of your allies can communicate or send help. Bennett approached the ceremonial platform. You can come willingly and avoid the bloodshed, or resist and watch your planet suffer. The temple was silent. Thousands of rude citizens watched in shock as their great elder faced off against the human soldier. You will destroy everything your species has built. Vosek hissed. The board will never accept you again after this. Bennett shook his head. We are no longer seeking your acceptance. 3 weeks ago, you showed us what the Council really stands for. Now let's show what humanity stands for. He turned to address the crowd. Citizens of Valos Prime, we have no dispute with you, only with those who ordered the assassination of our ambassador. No Skatarian civilian will be harmed, but Elder Vosek will face justice for his crimes. As Vosek was secured and taken away, Bennett activated his comm link. Commander Ross, primary objective secured. Elder Vosek is in custody. In orbit, he recognized Ross. Good job, Captain. Phase 2 begins now. Let's see how the Council reacts when they discover what their revered elder has been hiding for centuries. The news quickly spread across the galaxy. The humans captured Elder Vosek and now held, in this Kathar homeworld under your control. The Galactic Council called an emergency session, but the usual unity was nowhere to be found. In the Grand Council chamber, the representatives discussed animatedly. Some demanded immediate military action against Earth. Others questioned why humans attacked with such precision without taking civilian lives. Humans are barbarians, shouted the Draxian representative, a close ally of the Skatarian. They must be punished for this violation of municipal law. However, they showed restraint, Brill speaker noted. No Qatari civilians were injured. Only military targets and Elder Vosek himself were captured. The council president struggled to maintain order. We must act as one body. This human aggression can do that. The chamber doors opened. Susan Miller entered, now wearing the formal uniform of Earth's diplomatic court. The room fell silent. The United Earth government sends its greetings, she said calmly, walking to the central lecture platform. An information you should have received ages ago. You have no right to address this council. The Draxian shouted. Your species attacked a founding member world. Miller activated a data crystal. Above her, a holographic display showed ancient records from Sktheri's secret archives. These documents were recovered from Elder Vozek's private data vault. Miller explained. They detail how the Sktheri manipulated council politics for over 3,000 years. As they identified 17 species that they considered threats to their power. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. This is a human mistake. The Draxian insisted. The data carries authentication codes that only Sktheri High Command could create. Miller countered. She turned to address all the representatives. Some of you already suspected. Some of you have suffered under their influence. The Nelvari lost 3 colony worlds to pirate attacks that these records show were actually Sktheri operations. The Nelvari representative slowly stood up, forearms shaking. That is true? See for yourself. Miller said it transmits data to each board member's private terminal. Commander Ross is sending similar evidence to each of your worlds at this time. Across the galaxy, the situation repeated itself. Human diplomatic teams, led by Lieutenant Samantha Wright, met secretly with leaders of the Nelvari, Brill, and Iridians. All 3 of these races suffered under Sktheri's manipulation. Wright showed them evidence of how the Sktheri blocked their technological development, sabotaged their colonies, and even murdered their leaders when they became too influential. In the main Human Revenge, Commander Ross monitored these diplomatic missions. The Nelvari agreed to the alliance. Their communications officer reported. The Brills and the Iridians are considering our proposal. What about the others? Ross asked. For council races require us to return Elder Vozek immediately. 6 are waiting to see what happens. The remaining 4 have not yet responded. Ross nodded, just as we expected. The council is fragmenting along the lines Miller predicted. He turned to his tactical display. The human ships maintained position above the main council worlds, not in threatening formation, but present enough to show the unexpected reach of Earth. Sir, a junior officer called. Transmission received from President Ward. The president's face appeared on the screen. Commander, what is the status of Phase 2? Proceeding as planned, Madam President. The council is divided. Our allies are gathering evidence from their own archives to support our case against the Sktheri. President Ward nodded. Very well. And Elder Vozek. Protect yourself aboard the Jupiter prison transport. He is being treated well despite his protests. Preparations for the trial are underway. Excellent, said Ward. Remember, Commander, this isn't just about revenge. It's about reshaping the galaxy into something better than what the Sktheri created. After the broadcast ended, Ross looked up at the stars. The human fleet revealed capabilities that no one in the galaxy suspected. Some council races were already approaching, seeking protection or alliance. Sir, his second-in-command asked calmly, do you think this will lead to war with the remaining council loyalists? Ross shook his head. No. Once the trial begins and the evidence is public, even their closest allies will abandon the Sktheri. They know we could have destroyed Velo's heyday. Instead, we are seeking justice. This distinction is important. Throughout human-controlled space, citizens watch the events unfold with pride and anticipation. For the first time in galactic history, a young species challenged the old order and showed that true justice could replace the old power. Elder Vozek's trial began on a purpose-built neutral space station. Humans called this the Season of Justice. Representatives of all races on the council were invited to participate. The proceedings were broadcast to every world in the galaxy. The station's main hall was converted into a courtroom. Elder Vozek sat in a transparent chamber in the center. He wore simple clothes, not his ceremonial robes. Human guards were nearby, but their weapons remained in their holsters. Chief Prosecutor Daniel Collins approached the speaker's platform. Unlike the angry military response many expected, Collins was calm and professional. This court was established to try Elder Vozek for crimes against multiple species, including the murder of Amba. Satyr John Carter, Collins BN. All evidence will be presented openly. The accused will have full opportunity to speak in his defense. Vozek hissed, I do not recognize the authority of this court. The Galactic Council alone judges its members. The evidence we will present shows that the council has been manipulated by the Skadhari for centuries. Collins responded that he can hardly be considered an impartial judge. Collins activated a display showing Ambassador Carter's execution. Many in the Audience looked away as the silver flames consumed the human diplomat. That wasn't justice, Collins said. This was a murder disguised as tradition. Over the next 3 days, Collins presented evidence recovered from the Skathari files. The records showed how they engineered conflicts between other races, how they prevented technological advances that could challenge their power, how 17 species were systematically eliminated when they became influential. Security for the trial was tight. Major Maria Garcia led the protection team. Twice, the killers tried to prevent the process. A bomb was once discovered near the courthouse. Each time, Garcia's team avoided disaster. They are desperate to silence us. Garcia told Collins after the second attempt that the evidence is very prejudicial. On the 4th day, Collins called his final witness, Professor William Jones, a human expert on alien cultures and history. Professor Jones, Collins said, why do you believe Ambassador Carter was so specifically targeted? Jones adjusted his glasses. Skathari maintain a predictive algorithm system. It analyzes the development patterns of species. According to the documents we recovered, this system identified humanity as unique. Unique how? Collins asked. Most species follow predictable patterns to join the galactic community, Jones explained. Either they become dependent on advanced technology from older races, or they focus on specific areas of specialization. Neither do humans. Jones displayed graphs showing developmental patterns of various species. The Skathari algorithm predicted that within 50 years, humans would equal or exceed Skathari influence on the Council. Within 100 years, humans would completely reshape the galactic power structure. The courtroom was buzzing with conversation. Vosk's scales darkened with anger. Carter was not executed for breaking a taboo. Jones continued. He was killed because the Skathari saw humanity as the only real threat to their control. His execution was intended to frighten us into submission. Vosk finally spoke. You prove our point with your actions. See how quickly you moved against us. See your military power hidden from Council observers. You are exactly the threat we predicted. Collins turned to Vosk. Is this a confession, Elder? Are you admitting that Ambassador Carter was executed not for any rape, but because his people feared human potential? Vosk realized his mistake too late. His admission was broadcast across the galaxy. Your kind has always been arrogant, Vosk said bitterly. You think your justice is superior to our traditions. Do you think your few centuries of civilization can be compared to our millennia of order? Our justice offers you what you denied, Ambassador Carter, Collins replied. The chance to speak. The chance to defend yourself. The absence of torture. These are not weaknesses, Elder. These are the strengths of a truly advanced civilization. The Tribunal Council, composed of representatives of non-aligned races, retired to consider its verdict. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched and waited. The outcome would determine not only Vosk's fate, but potentially a new direction for galactic governance. Even some who initially condemned human military action have now questioned their assumptions. Perhaps these newcomers weren't seeking revenge after all. Maybe they really wanted justice. The court made its decision after 2 days of deliberation. The station's main hall of justice was attacked with representatives from across the galaxy. Even species that never joined the council sent observers. Elder Vosk stood in his containment field, his scaled face unreadable. The 3 judges entered silently and took their seats. We have reviewed all the evidence, announced the chief judge, a member of the neutral Tellurian race. We find Elder Vosk guilty of murder, conspiracy, and crimes against multiple species. A murmur ran through the crowd. This Cathari delegation hissed in protest. The traditional penalty for such crimes in most legal systems would be death. The judge continued. However, the human prosecution requested a different sentence. This caused surprise. Many expected the humans to demand execution, just as Vosk did to Ambassador Carter. Chief Prosecutor Collins stood up. Humanity does not seek to mirror the cruelty shown to Ambassador Carter. We request life imprisonment with access to historical and cultural materials so that Elder Vosk can learn from the civilizations he helped destroy. Vosk looked confused. You would spare my life after what I did to your diplomat. Justice is not about combining cruelty with cruelty, Collins responded. It's about ensuring the safety of others and the possibility of redemption, even for those who have shown no mercy. The judges accepted the recommendation. Elder Vosk would live out his days in a comfortable but safe facility without contact with harsh leadership. As the verdict was announced across the galaxy, reactions varied. Some council races they felt that humans were too tolerant. Others saw profound wisdom in his moderation. With the trial concluded, attention turned to reforming the Galactic Council. Colonel Jason Grant led a team in 12-star systems, dismantling hidden destructive weapons devices that had been positioned to threaten several council members. The scale of their manipulation was even greater than we thought. Grant reported to Commander Ross. They had planet-killing weapons aimed at the homeworlds of any race that became too powerful. On Earth, President Ward addressed a joint session of the United Earth government. "We didn't come for revenge," she said, to thunderous applause. "We came in search of justice. Now we must help build something better than what existed before." Not everyone was satisfied. Some military leaders have pushed for harsher punishment for the violence. "They would have exterminated us without thinking twice," Admiral Peterson argued during a closed-door meeting. "How can we be sure they won't try again?" "Because we broke their power structure," Susan Miller explained. "The reformed council will have checks and balances. No species will ever have such influence again." The new galactic charter was drawn up the following month. Humans worked alongside the Nelvari, Brill, Iridians, and other former victims of violent manipulation. The document established the Carter Protocols, ensuring that no species could be punished without representation and due process. When the charter was ready, representatives of 28 species met to sign it. The ceremony took place at Centralis Station, the same place where Ambassador Carter was arrested. "This location was deliberately chosen," President Ward said during the signing ceremony, "to remind us that injustice can result in positive change if we choose wisdom over revenge." The Reformed Council would operate differently. Leadership would rotate among member species. Military power would be balanced. Knowledge would be shared more openly. As humans took their place in this new order, they brought unique perspectives. Their story of overcoming their own divisions has given them insight into how to create unity from diversity. Some council races still viewed humans with suspicion. The Directions and 3 other species refused to sign the new charter, forming their own separate alliance. But most recognized that the humans had demonstrated remarkable restraint given their military capabilities. "They could have destroyed us all," a Nelvari elder commented to Susan Miller after the ceremony. "Instead, they forced us to improve." Miller watched as the various delegates mingled, species that had been kept apart by violent manipulation, now speaking freely. This is what Carter would have wanted, she thought, not revenge, but transformation. When the meeting ended, a memorial flame was lit in the center of the station. It would burn eternally, in memory of all those who suffered under the old order, and as a promise that such injustice would not happen again. 5 years have passed since the reform of the Galactic Council. The galaxy has changed in ways few could have imagined. Where once violence ruled through fear and manipulation, now a coalition of species work together, with humanity playing a key role. The Carter Memorial Embassy was in the heart of Centralis Station. Its design combined architectural elements from all municipal races. Inside, Ambassador Lisa Patterson represented Earth in the new council chambers. Patterson never met John Carter, but his legacy shaped his daily work. Today was no exception. A situation developed that would test the new order. The board recognizes Ambassador Patterson, Brill President announced. The position now rotates annually between member species. Patterson stood up. "Thank you, President. I wish to draw attention to the situation in the Vega sector. Scouts discovered a previously unknown sentient species. Holographic images appeared, showing a race of blue-skinned beings with 4 arms, similar to the Nelvari, but with distinct cresting patterns. Initial reports suggest that they developed more quickly than light travelers, but did not venture far from their home system." Patterson continued. "Under the old council, they would have been assessed for potential threat and possibly managed." Everyone understood what she meant. Under violent influence, these species were often sabotaged or manipulated to destroy themselves. "I propose that we invoke the Carter Protocols and establish peaceful contact," Patterson said. "Offer them membership without preconditions or demands." A representative in one of the most recent council elections objected. "Your system contains valuable resources. Perhaps we should negotiate from a position of strength." Patterson smiled patiently. This thinking led to the same problems we were trying to fix 5 years ago. The Carter Protocols exist precisely to prevent the exploitation of recently discovered species. The debate continued, but in the end the board voted in favor of Patterson's approach. A contact team would be set up, with representatives of different races. Later, Patterson walked through the memorial garden in the center of the station. A flame burned in a crystal box. The eternal flame for the victims of the old order. Susan Miller, now Terra's chief strategic officer, joined her. The vote went well, Miller said. Carter would have been proud. Patterson nodded. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if he hadn't been killed. Would we still have discovered this theoretical manipulation? Would the council have reformed? We can't know, Miller replied. But his death was not in vain. The galaxy is better now than it was. They stopped near the flame. Miller reached into a crystal box. We remember, John, she whispered, and we build something better from the ashes. Across the galaxy, humanity's influence continued to grow, not through fear or dominance, but through partnership and innovation. Human colonies flourished alongside those of other species. Trade routes linked systems that had once been isolated from each other by harsh policies. On the former Scathuri homeworld, a new generation was growing up with a different understanding of the galaxy. Schools taught a more accurate history, acknowledging the mistakes of the past while looking to a better future. Elder Vosk still lived in his secure facility. He had become frail but remained mentally sharp. Over the years, he has studied the histories of the 17 species his people helped destroy. Slowly, something akin to regret began to form in his ancient mind. The human guards treated him with respect, despite knowing what he had done. This confused him at first, but eventually he came to understand it as strength, not weakness. Across human space, the story of Ambassador Carter has been taught to children, not as a revenge story, but as a lesson in justice. How humanity faced cruelty with a measured response. How they changed the galaxy, not by becoming like their enemies, but by remaining true to their better nature. As humanity expanded further into the stars, their reputation preceded them. They did not seek war, but they did not fear it either. They preferred friendship, but would fight if necessary. Most importantly, they judged others not by age or power, but by actions and intentions. The galaxy has learned an important lesson. Do not confuse human patience with weakness, nor their desire for peace with fear of war. For when humanity finally acts, they change not just the battle, but the very rules by which it is fought.